executed well. It wasn't just a fluke play or some run plays. Like, they came prepared. They took their deep shots. They had some athletes on the outside. I mean, those are big, tall, strong receivers who were making plays, and they had some guys that were disruptive up front. So, I mean, the one thing I would say, just don't dismiss it as, hey, we played like junk and this is a MAC team. This is going to be a team that I think may win the MAC or be in the MAC championship game, and doesn't mean we shouldn't have played better, but that's not the Bowling Green that came into Penn State in 1998. Yeah. This is not the team.
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good team after they executed on everything. Like in the first half, they were like spotless. So I mean, I do agree with that for sure.
And like the back shoulder throw on the deep play. I mean, what else do you want the defensive back to do? I mean, I don't think anyone like I said, DeLuca took a couple bad angles on plays, and he'll correct that. But there wasn't plays where guys were like completely out of line or anything. I think you got to give credit to Bowling Green. Really executed what they wanted to do at a high level, and there wasn't guys like running like wide open. Like, they made contested catches, and the quarterback played a very nice game. And we're just not getting the same pressure from the defensive ends early in the season as we had in prior years to speed up some of those throws, I feel, which I think is giving these quarterbacks a little bit more time, especially in this game. It seemed noticeable. We're just not firing off like we have in the past 3-4 years.
Yeah, I don't think we had a sack. I don't think we even really came close, maybe once or twice. But Abdul Carter might want to move back to linebacker because we need him at linebacker. And
yeah, I mean, I said it early in the season. I mean, it just like defensive end, Smith Vilbert, Denai Dennis Sutton. I mean, Vanover. I mean, they have depth there. And I just think he was going to be more of a situational defensive end. Right, second and long, third and long. But yeah, I mean, it could be something, that they look at. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, they got to get it corrected before they go out to USC, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely a ton of credit goes to Bowling Green. I mean, they're a good team. I thought that we would perform much better. Obviously, we should have. Even against this, Bowling Green is not like Delaware or what I think Kent State will be, but still should have performed better. Overall, they just the quarterback, he did good. He was, he's definitely a legit player, legit quarterback.
He's poised. I mean, there's a lot of poise.
Yeah, very poised, and they just. They took it. Bowling Green took advantage, and they did well. And they started from the opening drive. They did really well. They attacked our defense, and that's what's scary about college football, man. Football in general. That's happened to Alabama. It's happened to a lot of schools where an inferior opponent comes in and you can't stop them, and that just. But overall, just kind of shocking. I mean,
Well, I thought they were going to go for that fourth down. Remember, it's like late in the second, and they were driving or something, and they decided to punt the ball. I was watching it with my buddy. I said, I would just go for it. I mean, like, why are you even bothering? And it makes it more dangerous. To your point about Alabama, too, Mark, as well. I mean, remember, this is a team that was in a one-score game, Alabama, last year versus University of South Florida in the rain. In September, that they had a legitimate opportunity to lose. They went on to win the SEC and go to the national championship game. So I wouldn't get overly concerned about playing a close game early in the season. Even I mean, look at Penn State 2005. They played a close game versus Cincinnati and UCF earlier in the year when they won the Big Ten. And even in 2016, you had a situation where Penn State had a close call versus Minnesota, actually lost to Pitt earlier in the year, and they wind up bringing it together. So, did anything happen to Kevin Winston? I didn't think I heard his name nearly as much. Did he get banged up at all?
I didn't see him. I didn't see him playing much at all in the game. I was actually confused myself. He must have been banged up from the beginning of the game or something. I don't know, but that might have hurt us a little bit.
Yeah, no question. I mean, certainly our best safety. And they had a lot of had a lot of deep, they took a lot of deep shots.
That's a good question because I don't remember seeing him at all in the second half. I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't know if I missed a play. I don't know if I stepped away and I missed like a targeting or something like that. I wasn't sure, so I figured I'd.
Yeah, I think Franklin talked about that. He said he wasn't going to reveal why, but I think he did talk about that in his post-game presser.
Did he not play at all, or was just limited?
I think he played. I don't think he played at all in the second. Yeah, I don't think he played at all. From what I was so. I don't know. I didn't really know.
He didn't look like he was sweating at all when I saw him in the second half on the sidelines.
Yeah. One thing
what about Julian Fleming? I mean, they just threw him that bubble screen.
Yeah, he was in the first half I saw, but one thing I noticed too is Drew Shelton started the first half. He gave up, he had a holding penalty, which I think was a little tacky. And then I saw Nolan Rucci in there. So I noticed that. I'm not sure if they were rotating guys, but it seems like I don't know. Like I said at the beginning, it seems like they're experimenting or.
Well, they've done that in the past, right? I mean, they've done that early in the season. You've seen guys come in and out. I don't think that's completely.
I don't know, man.
Crazy. And there's none of these guys have really established themselves, right? We're talking about Nolan Rucci and who'd you mention, the other guy? None of these guys were a full-time starter last year, where you're like, it's an eyebrow raiser, right? Where he comes out of the game where you're like, hey, what happened there? Are you concerned about Julian Fleming and the production? I feel like I thought they were going to do a couple design plays just to get him the ball early in the first half, just to kind of just take some little indirect pressure off him. But
they threw one screen pass to him. That was it.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, that's going to be a growing topic if it keeps going week and week. Where what's.
Yeah, Bowling Green just say.
Go ahead, Brett.
Bowling Green played scrappy defense. I mean, Drew had time here and there, but then at the same time, Drew was running for his life someplace too. So I don't.
Yeah, he was.
I don't know if he had a good grasp on getting people open. I mean, he made that one crazy throw to Katron that they reversed. It looked like a catch at first, but it looks like it hit the ground. But he was running for his life. So I mean, maybe Julian was open. He just didn't see him. Sometimes it's really hard to gauge it. You'd have to look at the tape afterwards. But
sure. Like I said, listen to T Frank. It sounded like what he was saying was they were holding back, like they weren't running the defense that they normally would. They were just kind of keeping it vanilla. They weren't playing who they could play.
Who's T Frank?
Thomas Frank Carr from Blue White Illustrated.
Okay, sorry about that. Just wanted to.
No, you're good.
Sorry to date myself.
No, you're good, man. So that's my answer to that is why we're not seeing Julian Fleming. It sounds like they're just not using him because they don't want to use them until they have to. I don't know, or until they.
What is this, like an artillery thing? I mean, that makes no sense.
I don't know, man.
I mean, you got to get them in the offense. I mean,
yeah.
How do you tell that player that? What are you going to say? I don't know. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it just sounds so crazy. You ever hear Ohio State say, "Well, we're going to intentionally not get Ibuka the ball last year because we have Harrison and other guys." I don't know. Throw to who's open.
Jared, what do you think? What do you think about that, the game in general?
I mean, you look at what they had a game plan for. I mean, it looked like they kind of went away from the running game for a good chunk of the game, and then in the second half, they kind of let Keytron and Nick Singleton do what they normally do. I felt like Drew Aller, like you said, kept running for his life. The overall game plan seemed like was not there for Bowling Green. I don't know if they didn't take them seriously, or just the fact that how many seniors do that team have? They have a lot of returning seniors. They've played with each other for a long time. I mean, it just seems like overall you have a guy like James Franklin who. I mean, it just didn't look good at all defensively. I've never seen a Penn State team look so inept overall, on that side of the ball. They just had nothing ready for them. I mean, that one wide receiver was just knocking defensive players down left and right. I mean, anyone who tried to get him, he could get his guy. He could get the yardage he wanted. It was pretty unbelievable to witness a team like Penn State, who is always known for their defense, not look like a defensive team at all.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It was just overall just strange the way they looked. Now, Matt, when you say it doesn't make sense, you're saying it doesn't make sense that.
Well, they wouldn't like
that, or.
Well, I mean, like, listen, I think that if he's open, they're going to get him the ball, right? Like, I don't think they're intentionally like necessarily use.
Well, they're just not playing him. Looks like we lost him, but yeah, Brett, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, it just seems like
I know what you're saying, but like, if they try to, if that's true, if they win a game plan like that again, we'll freaking lose a game because it was close. We could have simply lost that game because they didn't game plan for it. Like you got a game, it's 1-0. You have to game plan for it. So it just didn't look like the offense had the creativity that it had from the first week, even though we had success on it. It looked like more vanilla play calling, which like it's Bowling Green, but once you're starting to get punched in the mouth, like figure something out. Andy Kolenicki was actually burning me out. Like it was, let's say it's 1st and 10, runs the ball, gets 1 yard, runs the ball again, gets 2 yards. And then it's 3rd and long and you're throwing a 70-yard pass to Amari Evans. I'm like, what are you doing? You need 7 yards. And Amari Evans, like, he didn't even have to push off. Like, he needs to figure it out because he's got talent, but like he's pushing off when he doesn't even have to. You know what I mean? That would have been a touchdown. So that touchdown actually frustrated me because then at that point in the game, you're like, you're not stressing as much once the defense comes back on the field. So I don't know. That was the game planning on offense in the second half. I know that's when we eventually we were winning, but it's because the defense was carrying us. So in the second half.
Yeah, like Matt said, you give credit to Bowling Green.
Yeah,
they're a good team. Bazelak looked good. I mean, how they did that against our defense, I don't know, because that was really, really impressive on their end. But overall, it just seemed very odd, kind of the way they were, because they were subbing in they sub linebackers a lot, and they were subbing Abdul Carter a lot, and overall, man, I thought it was just odd. They seem to still be trying to find an identity, if you will, as to exactly what they want to do, because last week they really didn't show much or do much in the sense that they didn't have to. But this week they really struggled, I feel, to like have an identity. I mean, the offense looked just fine, but the defense just looked I mean, Bowling Green just made them look like they were in slow motion, really. It was just overall just very odd, the way they performed, the way they looked. And, they had 2 sacks, did Bowling Green. Penn State had 0 sacks. They had 0 sacks. Yeah. Which is not good. We had Tyler Warren as our leading receiver. He's obviously a weapon. That a team like that, it probably isn't going to factor much because of they have so many other weapons to focus on. But Tyler Warren was leading receiver. Amari, Nick, both had a receiving touchdown. Nick and Drew both had a rushing touchdown. They only had Bowling Green had 2 passing TDs and 1 rushing TD. Their highest receiver was Harold Fannin. Kept shooting the gun. He kept shooting the guns. I'm like, dude. You're probably gonna regret that when you lose, because I did think Penn State would win, but just overall, it was. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of at a loss for words. I really don't.
We should have had 50 points. We should have 50 points. Yeah, Amari Evans touchdown, and then the pick in the end zone.
Well, Amari Evans pushed off. I mean, let's be real. I mean, he pushed off. He got lucky last week.
It wasn't as bad. This was way less bad than last week's. Last week's was definitely push off. This week he touched him, but what I'm saying is he didn't have to touch him. He didn't have to touch him.
But even the one deep to even the deep ball to Wallace, right? Like, Wallace is not like he's not driving off his back foot and coming back through the defender for the ball to either high point it or draw the interception. And that's just, I think, a lack of experience. But those are just like the little things. Like, they'll get better. The play's there. The throw is great. And it's just that difference in adjustment that someone like a Deshaun Hamilton or a Godwin would have made just because they got reps, right? Like, those guys started as freshmen. So by the time they were sophomores and juniors, they were ready to make those plays. So, hopefully he learns, because those are the plays we're going to have to make against USC and certainly against Ohio State if we want to win those games.
Yeah. Tyler Warren's catching everything. Kudos to Tyler Warren for today. He looked great.
Yeah, I mean, he was the center part of the offense. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Patriots for all those years, and the Chiefs now with Kelsey. I mean, like, they're like, oh, it's tight end. Listen, whoever catches the ball and gets yards, I don't care if it's running back or tight end. He's doing his thing. Now, let me ask you guys. I mean, one thing that I thought was going to be incorporated a lot more this year is the running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. You had that nice play with Singleton. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that's something that, are you seeing it as much as you thought you would, maybe less than you thought you would?
Yeah, I mean, they could do it a little bit more, but I think they're getting it into the game plan for sure.
And the kicking. Sorry, go ahead, Mark. On the running back.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they're running the ball a lot, which I knew would happen. I thought would happen, which I like to see. But yeah, catching out of the backfield. I don't know. Again, I think that's what their identity, what they're trying to figure out is what their identity is, like what they're trying to do overall on both sides of the ball. It just seems like they're really trying to figure out, because they're definitely rotating guys a lot, and that's good, but you still want to get your starters in there and get them established and get them reps so that they can get experience, because they're going to need it against good teams. So I don't know, man.
And what about the kicking? I mean, those are probably two of the most important kicks in a while. I mean, if that kicker missed one of them, they start in the season 1 of 3, or 0 of 3. And he even kicked the other one that that was waved off, and he re-kicked it. But I mean, I was worried. I mean, and I mentioned before the start of the season, kicking is one of the areas I'm concerned about, just because of the way he lost his job last year and didn't regain it, and then started the season with a miss. I mean, we all know how those can go with college kickers. You miss one, maybe you make one and miss another, and all of a sudden it's like, man, you're having palpitations. And when you play USC or Ohio State, those could be 1-score games.
Yeah. I think what frustrated me was the red zone play calling. This field goal shouldn't have happened. It was like they did the run thing, and then threw it in the end zone for an interception. Like, they didn't have any creativity to the offense at all.
Well, the one thing I will push back a little bit is if the play that was intercepted, I mean, that's Drew Eller's fault. I mean, you look in front of Harrison Walls, he has 5 or 6 yards between that back corner of the end zone and him. I mean, he underthrew that ball. It was a bad throw, and it happens, and I'm not expecting to be perfect, but I'll push back a little bit, because I mean, if he throws it where it is, he's open, right? Like, he lead him. He should have let him, and I mean, he's got to execute, right?
Yeah,
they're getting that NIL money now, so expectations.
I think it was the drive before the half that I was more frustrated with. I mean, that one wasn't as bad, but the one before the half where they just like, oh, we'll just kick a field goal. Like, you could have tied it up with a touchdown, but the play calling was off and on all day. I don't know. The play calling wasn't as good as it was the first game, that's for sure, in my eyes, anyways, on offense.
Yeah, but they're staying aggressive to his tendency of every 8 or 9 plays they're taking shots. Yeah. Right? I mean, they're taking shots, which we gotta like as fans. I mean, we were losing our mind last year, right? I mean, the forward pass seemed to be like, not even in the playbook.
Jared, what did you think of the Offense. You hear me okay, Jared?
I don't know if you can.
Guess not.
I mean, you're looking at both games. I mean, 34 points each. Yes, I can. Can you hear me, bud?
Yeah. You're a little delayed, but that's all right.
And Bud, are you here?
Yeah.
No? Okay, sorry. But no, like, you look at both games, 34 points each, and West Virginia's game to get anything going. I mean, guys, run game for Penn State. That's all it is. So in the end, I just feel like we are all in for the run, but Drew Aller definitely has to get something established. I just I don't know really what it is about it. He just, the way he makes mistakes, the way he conducts himself. And again, it's all play calling too. It all comes about. I'm not saying that we don't have the wide receivers, but the tight end is obviously going to be another option. He was phenomenal today. Eight catches, 146. Didn't they say that was the most for Penn State in the history of tight ends? Like, I think I saw that. Like, that's awesome to see that for him. So yeah, they've got that going. But then you look at, like, what did they say? They had one catch for a wide receiver in the second half. One. I mean, that is not going to get it done, especially not against Big Ten teams. This is a huge concern. I don't know about you guys, but it just seems like that is not going to make it any better for this to establish anything. I mean, play calling, you can do anything you want, but in the end, it's just not going to get it done against teams like Ohio State or the new guys, USC or Washington or Oregon. They will pick that apart, and it will limit them to field goals, and it's going to get ugly if they don't figure that out in a hurry.
Jared, both of you, where do you think we go from here? I mean, what do you think it's going to be the same? I mean, is this, do you think, like, a bad sign in the sense that they're going to be a bad team? I mean,
no, I don't think they're going to be a bad team, but I do agree.
No, I just know that.
Hey, Jared, I'm going to kick you out, and I'll just jump back in. You're behind.
Okay, bud.
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be a bad team. There are some raised for concern, but a bye week couldn't have came in a better week. Let's be honest here. And then we have Kent State, so I think they're going to clean some stuff up. This has happened before, but yeah, I mean the wide receivers have to get involved more. They got to get Julian involved more. I think he's very capable of winning some routes, and they can make some plays for him, just like they did for Harrison Wallace last week. Harrison Wallace was targeted a few times today. He had that catch, but then they called it back because it was offensive pass interference. The offensive line, it was kind of the opposite. Today, the run blocking was better and the pass blocking was worse. Last week, it was the complete opposite of that. So, I mean, it's good that they figured one out one week and figured out the other one the next week, but you have to be more consistent and get both of those back in the game. So, there's just got to be more consistency on the run blocking and the pass blocking. It can't be just this is good this game, this is not good this game, but it's okay. We'll figure this out. Like Jared was saying, against Big Ten teams, I mean, they need to get practicing and fix the mistakes that are happening. Too many penalties again, just like last week. That's killing us. We'll come up with a stop or close to a stop, and then offsides or holding or whatever it is. It needs to be cleaned up. It is only week 2. But yeah, the receivers have to get involved. Maybe put Tyler Johnson in there or Mekhi Flowers or get those guys in there. I didn't really see them in there. So, see if they can get open.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm just going off of what T. Frank said in the sense that it just looked weird. So that would make sense that they're doing weird stuff. They're experimenting right now, and it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, because that was just a really weird performance, it is not just that they didn't score points and they gave up points. It was the fact that it just looked very strange, just the cohesiveness of it all. The defense looked confused. I mean, you've got so many great players on the Penn State side, and they're letting up these points to Bowling Green. I mean, that's just it's unbelievable. I mean, I know that's college football, but it just didn't make any sense. So
if they want to experiment, they should have did it. They should wait for Penn State, because Penn State is not even close to as good of a team as Bowling Green is. So,
I mean, does that sound like? Do you think that that's something they might be doing, Brett?
I mean, Franklin's always rotated people in games like this, but like maybe they didn't think it was going to be this close either, and they just ran with it, and then by the time they tried fixing it, it was almost too late, and they just had to figure it out. And then they ran the ball, and Singleton got free for that touchdown. If Singleton doesn't come free for that touchdown, who knows what we're at? It's a tie game.
Yeah, Jared, what do you think?
You know, again, what you said, if you rotate guys out, I don't see the benefit at all, especially now, again, we're a 33.5-point favorite. I mean, this should not have been an issue at all. I saw my entire line for like the percentage of winning that game just go little by little up for Bowling Green. And I'm like, there's no way this is a problem. I mean, luckily I was at work for most of this game, so I just kept seeing people in the area constantly coming into the store and just shaking heads. Like a lot of Penn State people were on halftime, and they just could not believe the performance that they were seeing defensively. Again, this is so uncharacteristic. I cannot remember a time that this was ever a problem. The two things you are guaranteed with Penn State is you have good running backs and you have a defensive line, and you never, ever questioned any of that. So that was always a consistent thing. Now, obviously, we have the one thing figured out very, very well. Now, I'm not saying you got to put it in perspective or this into your head, but suppose one of them does somehow get hurt. Then it would be a big, big problem, because I'm not saying relying on just one of them would be the end of the world for Penn State, but the Keytron and Nick combo has just been the most wonderful thing. And I remember when it was starting, I remember everyone was talking about, well, is Nick going to take this thing completely, or is Keytron going to show up out of nowhere? And they've just run with it literally for the whole, 3-4 years they've been together. And this whole thing has been fantastic. Watching each one get 750, 800 yards apiece, and they both just come out of nowhere all the time. And it's great to watch a guy like Keytron just blaze through a line. He's fantastic doing that. And Nick Singleton, he does it just as – I mean, he's not as good, but, I mean, once in a while, it's like, holy cow, that dude turns it on. And so they're fantastic running the ball. But everything else, I mean, the kicking is good too. I mean, that is a good thing to see him improve. But in tight end, I think we're pretty good. That's a very good performance by him too. But Aller's decision making and watching what we witnessed, I mean, that should never be a thing. So I know that next week they're going to really have to just button down the defensive play calling. They really got to plan for it. I'm not saying it's a player thing too, because the culture as time goes on, it's like, what are these guys really playing with? Like, how do they practice? Like, what gets them going? Like, the players, it's a very interesting dynamic. The chemistry has to all be there. And I'm just saying, defensively, it just doesn't seem like it's there. Offensively, I see certain things going down, and they seem like they're cohesive, but sometimes it's like when things are going great, they react the way they do, but when it's not, you can tell it's one of the most confused looking defenses I've ever seen for Penn State. So I feel like that is something they have to figure out.
Well, my thoughts on that too, though, is I mean, the defense played good last week, right? So that's good news that it happened. And then this actually, it was kind of reminiscent of the Indiana game last year. Indiana, they gave us a freaking game, and our defense did not look good that day. I'm hoping it was a fluke today. I'm hoping it was a fluke. Maybe it was. I mean, last year the Indiana game was a fluke, other than the bowl game, which the bowl game didn't count because we didn't have half our team playing. So I don't even count the bowl game last year at all. The defense, and also Ole Miss has really good receivers. So I mean, they're gonna make plays. So this is kind of reminiscent of the Indiana game. I don't know what would happen if Indiana and Bowling Green play, but I think it'd probably be pretty close if Bowling Green played the way they did today against Indiana. I'd see Indiana losing. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's some pros and cons of the game. Like you said, Tyler Warren looks fantastic. The running game looked pretty great most of the time. They ran for like 230 yards or something. Drew, I don't think Drew had that bad of a game. I mean, there were a couple drop balls, a couple contested catches that didn't go his way. He was running for his life, running out of the pocket, gaining positive yards. There was that one, he got sacked. He couldn't go anywhere. There were 4 guys chasing after him. So
yeah, the offensive line is a problem.
He'll make some improvements, but they were rotating a lot of people on the offensive line, so I think that's what caused that, the cohesiveness and the everybody playing together at the same time. It's got to get better. So,
and I think the other thing too is like, you talk about like rhythm of the offense. I mean, not to like go NFL here, but I mean, listen, I've been a Patriots fan my whole life. One of the things that I think kept them so successful and allowed them to really get receivers in and out there and still move the balls, everything moved in rhythm, right? 2 seconds, 3 seconds, get the ball out. Like that to me was like missing last year in just 2 steps, drops, get the ball out. We have better athletes, force them to make tackles. There doesn't seem a lot to be in rhythm. The ball seems to be held just that extra second, half second, 2 seconds. Brett, I'm not sure if that's kind of like what you're referring to. Like there's not enough of that. And I like the shots, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't seem to be a lot of quick rhythm with the offense. It just seems like they're still trying to figure it out a bit. And that's why, like I said, I mean, going back, I mean, listen, the Patriots are successful because of that, right? It's just like get the ball out, let the guys make plays, and force the defensive backs to make tackles. And they don't tackle well in college. That's the thing. They tackle well in the NFL. They don't tackle well in college, and you see it all the time. Even those bubble screens, 3, 4, 1 missed tackle, 10 yards at a clip.
I don't think we throw a slant all day. Like, you still have to throw slants. Don't get me. Like, you can't just not throw them. Like, I don't think they threw one all day. Or maybe they tried and they weren't open, but you need that for like a short game, for like when it's 3rd and 6 or something like that. And we didn't.
Yeah, I just don't think they're not giving our simple plays just to bring his completion percentage up, right? Just every 6, 7 throws, make it an easy one, right? And that's what takes completion percentages at the end of the year from 55 to 64%.
Yeah.
Well,
the only person they did that with was Tyler Warren, which is great, but you need another guy. You have to get those plays to other people too.
Yeah, and they got, receivers that can get the ball and go. I just, just seems to be kind of, lacking there to just try to give them a little bit of
overall, I think the offense looked pretty good. They have to get better on 3rd down, like Franklin said, but overall, I think they looked fine. I mean, the defense just didn't do many favors. They gave up points. Drew looked pretty good. I mean, the execution was not as good as it should have been, but the run game looked good. Blocking overall, I thought was pretty good. And you got between K-Tron and Singleton, like Greg Garrity has said in the past, you got 2 bell cow guys. You got 2, a 1 and 2 punch. It's pretty crazy. Just how good they looked. I mean, they look good overall, but the defense they look confused. It's just there's a lot of question marks there. And another thing that sucks right now is that we're going into a bye week. And we're going to go into a bye week with this sour taste in our mouth. It's a win. Like, they're definitely.
I don't know. I think we as fans. No, I think honestly, the players shrug it off, and you have your off day, and you move on. I mean, I think you won the game, you move on, you respect the opponent, and that's it. They got a bye week. I think us as fans, people bet on the game or take pride in the, margin. But I don't think anyone. I don't think. I mean, at that point, honestly, and I don't think it's the worst thing for them to play a competitive game. I mean, this to me brings more dividends than just blowing them out and forgetting about them and thinking you're really good. I mean, long term, if the coaches can I'd rather them win a close game and have their attention the following week of practice than just, hey, we just blew Bowling Green out. Because remember, like, you have Kent State, who's really bad. And then you don't want to be like napping going to the Illinois game thinking you're like really good and not being in stressful situations up until week 4 or 5. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world And then even look at Notre Dame. I think they're in a tough tussle right now, right?
Yeah.
With Northern Illinois. I mean, you're going to see this. This isn't like, this isn't like new to.
No.
What's the
Yeah,
score?
I mean, Northern Illinois is up 13-7 over them. I mean, and it
Bowling
just,
Green's a good
Cal,
team, I think, like you said, they're
Cal,
gonna win the MAC.
Yeah, and Cal's beating Auburn. I mean, 14-7.
Love that.
I just, it goes to show that it happens across college football.
There's always 1 week at least out of the year that there's a bunch of crazy games. That is this week, apparently. So
yes,
everybody enjoy it, or don't enjoy it. Whatever team you're looking for.
The optimistic side of me says that they're going to come in to Kent State. They're going to clean things up. I think my greater point is they seem to use this game kind of to figure themselves out a little bit. Maybe did some things that they wouldn't do against a better team, but I think coming into Kent State, they're going to know their identity. I think they're going to have a solid performance. And I think going forward, they're really going to know in terms of like they're really going to polish things up to a T where they're going to know, okay, this is our identity going forward. This is what we need to do. And that's it. It's going to differ from game to game, but they're going to know who they are as a team, what works and what doesn't. Because I think they almost use this game to do that, to like just be like, like, what are we? Who are we? What can we do? Who do we need to play? Stuff like that. So, because obviously they have the talent. They have the guys that can play. I mean, they have a freakish amount of talent on this team. Abdul Carter is literally, I mean, could be a top 5 pick.
He still made plays. He made plays.
Yeah. But are you picking them top 5 after the first 2 games here?
Well,
I still think he has a lot of. I think he has to. See, here's the thing. If I was concerned about his NFL projection, he has so much, and I'm curious what you got. He would have to put on another 20, 30 plus 20 pounds at least to make these transition to NFL defensive end, which is a lot of weight.
Well, he's the size of Chop Robinson. He's 260 right now.
Is he up to 260?
He gained 10 pounds on the offseason. So he's got the weight up. He just needs to learn more technique on the line.
His weight's deceptive because he doesn't look 260. He looks thinner than that. I was thinking he'd be in the 250 range.
Well, it's Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton doesn't look heavy at all, but he's just dense. He's dense as hell. He's like 225, 230.
Kobe King. How much does Kobe King weigh?
He has to weigh like 700 pounds. He looks like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's 250, but he looks like he's 275. Like
he looks like a bodybuilder. He looks like a bodybuilder. But like, same with me. Like, some people might see me and say I'm like 200 pounds, 220, and I'm not. I'm almost 260. So it's like, it can be deceiving for sure. I mean, Kobe King, I think he looks like 260, 270, but he's only like, same with Tony Rojas, dude. He's what, like 240? He's
240.
He doesn't look that big at all either.
Yeah.
I mean,
people wear their weight differently. I'm 200.
Yeah.
I don't look 200. So,
yeah. So Jared, overall, man, like going forward, do you think that they find their identity? I mean, you think this is just kind of a whatever game and this is not who Penn State is?
Well, to piggyback off of, is it Matt?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. To piggyback off what Matt was saying, I mean, that was one of the more impressive ways you could have narrated that, because that's probably how I would probably take this. I mean, not saying that you can't think like that, but it is important for you to know going into the season and being exposed correctly. And I feel like for the first time in a long time, it actually had happened, because like you said, if we had gone into all these games doing what we normally do, thinking we don't have any problems, nothing is wrong. Like I've seen it many, many times before with these, pre-Big Ten games. Like we always blow out everybody 40-10, 55-6. I mean, it's not helpful. in that regard. I totally agree with that. I think that is a great attitude or a great perspective to look at, because honestly, regardless of what we want from a new offensive coordinator, the offensive line and Drew Aller sometimes just do not look like they are still getting things going. And a team like Bowling Green, who have worked with each other for a long time. I mean, you look at how many seniors they have, and it's just like working with each other for that long, that makes a good team, and they know how to play with it. So, I mean, it's definitely important for us to see these exposures in this way. I totally agree with that, because, again, going into Kent State, that's, like we said, that is when I expect these things to be cleaned up just a little better. Do I expect another 55-10 blowout or something like that? That would be fantastic. But again, if that's not who you are right now, then of course that's not what it's going to be. So I would, as a Penn State fan, like to see how it's going to go the whole season. And this kind of exposure was honestly a big wake-up call, because again, there's not a single person who should not have went into that game going, there's no way this is going to be a game. And it was very much one. This was definitely uncharacteristic to see that many different sides of the ball just look so inept. And they are definitely being exposed correctly. And I really hope that James Franklin, again, the head coach, who needs to make sure that this is something we address and do it correctly going forward, because again, Big Ten teams, they're going to see all this and they're going to be like, well, now we know how to expose them, or play an entire game and then pounce when we need to. And honestly, with Ohio State and USC, Oregon, not to say that this will be a massacre, but you're definitely looking at it where you cannot go into these games thinking that you can do anything of this nature, where you're experimenting, where you're throwing guys out. You need to know who's going to be the best cornerback, who's going to be the best position to make big plays. Like, is the tight end going to be the most important part of that factor? I know that we have their issues knowing who's going to be big playmakers, getting the ball to them. But yeah, Aller and company, I feel like that was a big, big help for them. So it's like now we can go forward with a better game plan, or an improved one, by the time the Big Ten shows up.
It's good to gain some resilience in games like that. That'll help the team in the long run. So I agree with all that. This is also reminiscent of the App State game, let's be honest. A couple years back.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of that game. That was an overtime game, so that was even closer. So, yeah, I mean, we've been in this situation before, and typically we persevere. So, I mean, let's just have faith in the team and the coordinators, and that they're going to get everything fixed up.
Yeah. Just going off of the fact that Bowling Green, a good team. I think, like Matt said, they're going to be good going forward. Drew Aller still had 3 touchdowns, so we got to give him a lot of credit. I'd say he's the player of the game for sure. He looked good. He looked confident. Even in during adversity, man, he looked good. Could have converted better, but I mean, that's not just him. So I'm happy with Drew Aller, what he did. My optimistic side said, like I said, that we're going to be okay. We just had a bad game. We're probably experimenting a little bit, ran into a good team. We'll get it cleaned up, but at the same time, to have a performance like that this early in the season, it's not like a good sign. I mean, we can learn a lot, like Matt said, but it's not like
I don't even know. Like, I mean, like this whole thing, like the finding identity, and like, I mean, listen, the objective is to do 2 things in a game like this. Number 1 is win, and number 2 is not have any major injuries. If you achieve both of those, then move on. I mean, because like at the end of the day, like we see this all the time. Teams like Penn State, top 10, top 15 teams, they'll play down or sluggish to competition. They know Ohio State week or USC week, their season's on the line. You're going to get a different level of focus and different level of team play. I don't really feel, after watching college football these years, if like there's correlations between like early season non-conference games and how they come out against the best competition. You see teams play up in college football to better competition a lot more than you would think when you see how much how many times they play down to competition. And that's just human nature, right? Preparation and, hey, we could just turn it on if we have to. We could just run the ball or throw it to Tyler Warren. Like, that's just human nature. But then, like, you get keyed into, like, USC, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Like, those guys know you need every play, right? Like, they know they need every play. So I'm not worried. Like, there's no reason to be worried about this game. They're like, you achieved your two most important things, and you move.
Yeah. That's another aspect, a good point. Is like they knew they weren't playing Ohio State. So I think that's a factor. But I'm not on this podcast. We speak frankly. We're not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, there's no excuses, but we ran into a good team. I really give them a lot of credit. And at the end of the day, Penn State's got to really just polish it up. And I think going forward, they'll be okay. But it was just strange, man. Didn't expect that at all. I mean, my score prediction was 63-7, even with the rain. Brett, you were close to 40, that too.
Mine was 48-6. So
yeah, so
far off. Yeah.
And you didn't think they would get a touchdown, and I didn't. I thought
they scored on the first drive, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Oh
even
boy.
After the first touchdown, I thought, "Oh, okay, that's."
I was like, "All right, we'll stop in the next time." Nope, right down again.
And then 24 again. Points later, it's like,
boy.
Okay, this is just strange. But
to stop them for 3 in the second half, you got to give it to the defense. They did a good job. Because if they wouldn't have stopped him like that, then we'd be looking at an L probably. I don't know.
Yeah,
Jared,
good team adjust.
Do you have a Jared? You gave your thoughts, but going forward now, like, what's their record? You think after today's performance?
I mean, when you look at Big Ten, what we are going to be getting with USC, UCLA, Oregon, and all them, I mean, it's not a coincidence that they have blown up the playoff number to 12. Like, I just feel like now it's so funny how we're starting to look at all the things that we have to now get right all the time now with these new teams. I mean, how many teams do we have? 18 teams in the Big Ten now? Is it 18?
Yep. It was 18, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
18 teams, guys. I mean, that's a lot to prepare, regardless of what your schedule is going to be in the next 5, 7, 10 years, whatever. It's ridiculous to know that now it's everybody. It's not just Ohio State and Michigan anymore. It's pretty much the entire side of the country. It's West, it's North, it's South, it's everywhere. I mean, so we're definitely got our work cut out for us, because now we've got more recruits that we have to look for, and guys that we have to keep on our system. And with this transfer portal, I mean, I really wish I would make sense of all that too, and get a clear cut understanding that it's like, if you make a change, it has to be like a 2-year minimum. That would be where I go with it, because it's like, commitment has to be something. It has to be somewhere in that.
No, sorry. There's some talk that they're going to make the transfer portal 1 window instead of 2. So that will help, because then you don't have people just going in and out as much. But fun fact about Michigan is it's too late to shop for a QB right now. So they're kind of burnt. Their QB situation is bad.
They're cooked, dude. They're
cooked right now. So, yeah.
That was a brutal game. I mean, 31-6 I last saw.
No, same thing. Michigan's cooked, but you got to give Texas a lot of credit. They're very good. But
they are really good.
But Michigan at home, dude, like, I don't care who you are. That's tough. I don't care if Michigan's inferior or not. They just don't have a quarterback right now. They have basically a 2-quarterback system. They've been splitting reps. But, to go off Jared, your point again, it's like the college football or college basketball analogy. You go into March Madness, you play I can't remember a team that was good in the March Madness. That was smaller school, but they're all seniors, right? And then you go in with a Kentucky team who's literally all freshmen, because they go in 1 year, take a dancing class, and then go get drafted in the NBA. You know what I mean?
That's true too.
They're never there, man. They're not there long. They're 5-star guys that
They play 1 or 2 years and they're out.
Yeah, like probably, like in high school, probably didn't go to class. They don't lift. They're just good at basketball. And then they go in to March Madness, and then they get upset by this team who's like all 4 and 5 year guys have been playing together that long. And then like, yeah, of course they got a shot to upset them because they've been playing together so long. Same with Bowling Green, and they got the quarterback to transfer from Indiana. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback at all. They said he had a 300-yard passing game, and that was the first 300-yard passing game at Indiana since Antoine Randall in 98. So that was a long time that they didn't have a 300-yard passer. So, and they had Michael Penix there. So, yeah, just overall, we'll see, man. We'll see going forward. You really can't know.
Yeah. I mean, I initially had this team 10-2. Naturally, the Ohio State or some random like Iowa or Oregon was going to take us down. I thought that was going to be one. But now seeing it, I mean,
we don't play either of those teams. Yeah, this year.
Okay, I'm just saying a team like that, like Washington or UCLA would just like somehow come out of nowhere. Yeah, it's just, but for them, it's definitely again, you can't measure this whole season just off 2 games. I understand that, but seeing it, I would like to think it kind of does drop a little bit. Like, are we a 9-3 team right now? I mean, it seems like that would be the trajectory that looks more honest. Just from this, I mean, I'm saying if we're basing it off these 2 games, it was originally 10-2. I drop it to 9-3. But again, for all we know, until we face our first Big Ten team and we see the whole game, is where I will maybe make my decision with that. So, like right now, it's a 9-3 team, but it could go back up to 10-2, depending how they look against their first Big Ten team.
And Illinois looks decent this year. I mean, they haven't played many like good teams yet, but I mean, their quarterback threw 5 picks against us last year, 4 or 5. So if he doesn't do that against us this year and he looks good, we could be in a fight in Beaver Stadium with Illinois our first Big Ten game. So we'll have to see. I mean, I agree with that, Jared. So I'm hoping I'm looking at go for it.
My record hasn't changed. I mean, I think this was just because we're way too talented because I still think we got a shot against every team on our schedule. I think we can win against every team on our schedule, including Ohio State. I just thought today was very odd. They didn't seem like themselves. They didn't seem like the Penn State that they should be. And I just think it was like sort of a fluke. It was just some weird experiments going on. They didn't really know what to do. They were just trying things out. That's why I truly think that nothing's really going to change, but this game really, really, I mean, I don't want to say it made me angry. I was just really frustrated by what they were doing. What's up? What were you going to say, Brett?
I was pretty mad in the first half. I was pretty upset. And thank God, Jared, you didn't have to watch it because, boy, you would have dropped a few years. You would have lost a couple years. I feel like
you're probably healthier being at work, Jared, than you were watching the game.
I'm 33, and I feel like I'm 45 now. So it's a rough go, but
yeah. Amen.
But I like you guys were saying, Mark. I think it was like I personally think it was a fluke defensive performance. I'm hoping that's true because our defense did not look like that last week. So I really, the pass coverage was not good today. Stupid stuff.
Stupid stuff said pass coverage was trash.
It looked like some stupid stuff out there. So I agree.
It did.
I don't know. Jalen Kimber has not looked great. He didn't look good today. He looked like he wasn't really fighting for it. AJ Harris, on the other hand, I don't think people are even trying to pass on him. I don't think people have completed a catch against AJ Harris yet. Maybe one.
Yeah, he's looking good.
He looks really good. So he looks fantastic. So once KJ gets back in the loop, I think we'll be fine. I really think it was just an Indiana App State type of game. It wasn't our day. I'm hoping we get some results saying half the team had the flu a couple days ago and they're getting over it. But if that doesn't happen, I'll be fine. I'll live. I'm still 45 now. But I'm still thinking 10-2. We could go 11-1. We could be any team on the schedule. We have to show that we have what it takes. And I think this early resilient comeback win, technically, we weren't leading until the third quarter, man. So, I mean, it's a comeback win. So
yeah, and I'm just gonna end with this. Like, if you guys, want to keep talking, we can. But pretty much my final point is, I haven't seen the post game stuff. I really haven't watched Instagram, but people are gonna blame Franklin. They're gonna say Franklin sucks. He needs to be fired. Like, he can't coach. Like, they almost lost Bowling Green. I mean, at the end of the day, man, like he can't play the game. So, like, he's not playing the game. Like, these guys have to, like, execute. Like, it's
yeah.
I think really what it came down to was just poor planning for the defense is really what it came down to. And they just weren't executing. They weren't not calling what they should have been. I mean, it was just it was a goose egg by the defense. That's it. And I really don't know what else to say, man. There's really nothing else we can say because, at the end of the day, the offense, they could have scored more points. They should have. They left some points on the board, but also in addition to that, they feed off of the defense. Like, if the defense is, like, doing what they were doing, that's going to kill some confidence no matter what. The morale
that's how they've always been.
So,
yeah,
like, the morale is going to be horrendous, and it was. So, we can only see going forward. But I'm still planning to do at least one episode this week. During the bye week, we can cover kind of like the first two games. Saturday might do an episode too. We'll see, but we'll be back at it the week of Kent State, which is my birthday weekend. So it's going to be, I hope, a good game against them. Kent State is definitely not Bowling Green. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, for all we know, Bowling Green could go like 11-1 would be the only loss. I mean, we have no clue. I mean, they look like a team that can do that. We've seen this in the past, though. I have seen this many times where I forget who it was a couple years ago. We had a really tough game against that team, and then I remember looking back on them and seeing they did not lose a single game after us. We were their only loss.
Could have been Ohio, or it could have been Ohio was pretty good that one year.
Yeah, I think that was the year, but it's like, that's the thing. This is the ultimate learning game, I think. When you say learn from your mistakes, this is what we're talking about. Just see everything you didn't do. Do not do it again when it matters. I mean, if you have to, make sure it's like when it's the Kent States and of the world. So, I mean, or whatever Penn State team or Big Ten team is not doing great. I mean, I feel like just see what you did and move on.
If this happens against Kent State, then I'm going to have to pick up some amlodipine and take blood pressure pills. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen.
It's definitely not going to be good if they do this against Kent State. That's going to look really, really bad. I mean, then we really know that we're in trouble.
Yes.
55.
But at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense if they were to do that. So I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll be okay. But man, just let's pray that doesn't happen again.
They're going to clean some stuff up.
Yeah. But thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We can
thank you, bud.
We can talk a little more once I end the stream if you want. But thanks for coming on. Penn State wins 34-27, and we will see you guys next week.
All right.
Take care, everyone. Have a safe Saturday. Enjoy the festivities responsibly.
Penn State.